Hey, my name is Diane Way. I have been doing hands-on therapeutic stretching since before most people knew that existed. Um, and I have 5 stars for athletic prowess and getting people out of pain and getting people out of back pain, neck pain, knee pain, all kinds of pain. But back pain is so prevalent, and so many people have come to me for it and left reviews on Yelp and Google and also my website, um, attesting to their results. So it is such a pleasure for me to be able to help people tap into their body's innate wisdom. That's really what's happening. I am not waving a magic wand. I am helping people tune into their body's desire to be pain-free and functional. And when we have little hiccups in the way, accidents, injuries, um, perhaps some things from our work or our sports or, just stepping in a pothole, um, we have a little detour of the comfort and wellness that our bodies want to experience. And so it is my honor to help guide you back towards, back into your body's innate wisdom of how to function well. So the one of the questions is, why does it hurt so much getting in and out of a chair when I'm having a back pain incident? So the core of that is your hip flexors. Um, your hip flexors, especially the psoas. I know it's incredibly maligned, and yet it's an important muscle. And when you learn to work with it, it won't have such a bad reputation. Um, but what happens if your seat is too low or you are getting in and out of it um, suboptimally, it will trigger gripping around your lumbar spine, gripping of your lumbar spine by the psoas. So what you want to do is use your posterior chain as much as possible and stop overusing the muscles in the front of your body. So what do I mean by this? So I have several videos on my channel. There's hundreds of free videos on my channel, you guys. But specifically for posture and for back pain and um, single stretches and short sequences. And soon there will be more. And these lives are becoming long content. But anyhow, let me address this question. So notice, you can't see all of me, I realize, but notice that my hands are free, although there's something in front of me, so I have to do weird stuff with my knees. But my hands are free, and I'm going to lift from here and here as I get up out of my chair. So let me put my chair where you can actually see what I am doing here. And as I sit, I'm reaching my sit bones back, lowering myself to the chair. Whoops, where is the chair? Lowering myself to the chair. And then when I am sitting, my knee patellar tendon is aligned with my first and second toe and not behind. It is in line. Ideally, from the side, you can see this better. So it's not back here. If I tuck my legs under, then it's automatically going to stress here. It's automatically going to grip there. So if I put my feet here, and while I'm sitting, I'm perched on my sit bones. More on that in a moment when I'm a little closer to the camera. Do I have any bars in my way? Okay, so from here, I am going to imagine that I'm lifting from here and here. And what's happening is I'm pressing through my heels on the floor. My toes are down too, especially my first and second toe. My toes are down too, for balance and stability and to engage fully. But I'm doing the lifting from the back of my body. I'll tell you why in a moment. So, lifting, I'm imagining that I'm lifting from here and here, but the muscular action is here. And I come up and I come all the way up. That's really, really super important. You can even add an extra glute squeeze at the top. Now, do this on stairs and chairs. I mean, do this on stairs and anything too. So, as I walk up a stair, I come to my whole body height. I have a video about stairs. Uh, um, from early in shelter, when I first realized that people needed to have access to good information, and that there was a lot of really silly and misinformation out there. So that video is maybe not as professionally shot as my future ones will be, but it has important information in it. So enjoy it, laugh at my learning curve, and let my share enhance your learning curve for how to take care of your body. So activating my posterior chain helps me. So the glutes are hip extensors, and they work opposite of your hip flexors. This is key. The principle, a major principle upon which active isolated stretching, what the stretching that I do, have been doing, working with my mentor for since 1997, is based on Sir Charles Sherrington law of the principle of reciprocal innervation and inhibition. So let me just say that one more time slowly. And by the way, he won a Nobel Prize for this almost 100 years ago. He was studying eyeballs. So you cannot look left and right out of the same eyeball at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to look like a cartoon character. Boing, 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 boing. So your body is set up in a way that you don't have to look like a cartoon character with your eyes popping out of your head. So when the muscles that perform one action are firing, the muscles that perform the opposite action are inhibited from firing. Think yin yang, right? Give and take. So when you're using your glutes, your extensors, your flexors are inhibited from firing. It is a good way to make sure that your flexors are inhibited from firing. It is a super healthy, wholesome way to make sure that they're inhibited from firing, because your psoas attaches to your lumbar spine. That is usually the region of issue for people with low back pain. So we want to avoid the psoas pulling on the lumbar spine, getting in and especially out of a chair. So use your glutes, use the back of your legs, and come up and imagine you're lifting from here and here. So the psoas really shouldn't be so maligned, but it is. Our modern society involves a lot of sitting. And so if you think about having your arm bent all the time, um, for hours a day, like sitting at a desk, and then you go to straighten it, it might not want to straighten fully. And if you go to straighten it, suddenly it's going to pull on something. Your hip flexors, your psoas, it's attached to your lumbar spine. And so when you go to get up, well, the other end is attached to your femur, which is the biggest, strongest bone in your body. The biggest, strongest bone in your body. So when the psoas goes on everything, do you think it's going to pull your femur out of place? Or do you think it's going to tug on your lumbar spine? A little bit of both, but what do you think is going to be more vulnerable? Yeah. Exactly. So, so what you want to do is make sure that you are not triggering a sudden contraction of the psoas on the lumbar spine every time you go to get up out of your chair. And my suggestion is don't wait for a back incident to learn this. Get in the habit of doing it on a regular basis. But, so that's the answer to the question, why why does it hurt so much to get out of a chair when I'm having an incident? So the next piece of that is, let's stop having incidents. Um, Personally, I ruptured an L4, L5 disc. They wanted to do surgery on it. It was back in, last century when the only surgery they had was fusion, and it scared me, and I'm really grateful that I turned it down, even though I continued to be in pain for a few years. But anyhow, in case it's reassuring to you to know that I have been through, not just your garden variety back pain where you have tight muscles, or a strain or something like that, but an actual situation that showed up on imaging as a surgical situation. So, uh, some people really, really, really need surgery. The surgeons thought I was one of those people. I am glad that I chose to forego, especially that surgery. Nowadays, they might have trimmed it a little so that the caustic substance, that was pressing that was, pressing on my sciatic nerve, would have stopped that sooner than it did, but my body did heal it, and especially when I learned certain things about my postural habits, my patterns, like good movement patterns, good movement habits, so basically I made myself stronger. I continued to grow and learn. I worked with some world class um, professionals variety of in a variety of professions, both medical and hands on therapeutic, and of course there's an overlap. Um, and eventually learned how to get my body out of pain and get my body to be strong. So now, as a senior, yes, thank you for not believing me, but yes, I am. Um, I continue to be strong. It's super important that we stay strong. Uh, and and I got moving. I got moving. I learned to stop the postural habits that were contributing to my back pain. And you know what? When they looked at my x-rays and they could see the rupture, no one said, well, maybe if you stopped locking your knees and learn to put your pelvis in, a more biomechanically friendly alignment and learned some other things that maybe that would reduce your pain. No, I figured that out on my own later. Um, there are systems now that will teach you, and the internet was not a really big thing then either because this was the 1980s. So, and the doctor and the surgeons were offering me the best that they had at that time. So, I do not fault them, but I'm still glad that I took the path that I took. I know people who had fusion of their L4, L5. About 50% of them were happy for a little while. Okay, that's not a high percentage. Some of them didn't even get relief for a while. But most of them, when you take movement out of a segment that is part of a chain that is supposed to move, when you take movement out of one part, it often requires it puts more strain of movement on the other parts. And especially since that is so close to The sacrum, which is the fused vertebrae below, technically below L4, L5, is the disc between the moving parts and the, in most people, hopefully, fused parts between the elephant ear shaped hip bones. Anyhow, but so the low lumbar spine is a quite common area of issue. Now, some people I've had, some people, some people have simply a strain, and that is so easy. We simply do some stretching, and of course, I try to do some education um, to help people avoid that. Proper lifting techniques. Don't get yourself caught in certain positions, that kind of thing. Um, these are all helpful. Uh, So it's nice when it is something that simple, but it isn't always something that simple. And in cases where I'm sorry, checking on the other camera. Well, I'm barely in it. Okay. Oh well. Um, you guys bear with me over there. So in cases where it's not that simple, you could have stuff show up on an X-ray or an MRI indicating a, a serious issue. So one of the reasons why they're reticent to do MRIs is because most adults will show an issue. And then once they see an issue, they start being concerned and worried and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of people walking around with issues that don't know them, that don't know they have issues, that don't know that they have degenerate, blah, easy for me to say. That there's lots of people that don't know that they have degeneration of their discs, that they have various things that might scare other people on their MRIs or their X-rays, and they don't want to create undue concern and discourage people from moving, because movement is super important. Wise movement is of course the ideal, but movement is super super duper important. And there's definitely some overlap, and sometimes, often, the overlap of what shows up on an MRI or an X-ray, it's pointing to the area of issue. Um, in this country, well, let me not go there, because I don't know what year you're going to be viewing this. This is October of 2024 as I do this live, and things continue to improve, especially in these days of shared information via the web. Um, Surgeries continue to improve, treatments continue to improve. So, like I said, I mean, in the 80s, when I had my rupture L4, L5 disc, they didn't have a little snip that they could do. All they had was vertebral fusion. So, and anyhow, uh, sometimes the quickest path isn't necessarily the best path. I understand that it is desirable to get out of pain as quickly as possible, but consider this: it's also desirable to get out of pain as permanently as possible. And that is the goal of my bounce back from back pain. So, bless you if you're still watching, especially in the future. There should be links both on my website and on my YouTube channel for contacting me to participate in this program. It is a hybrid remote program. So I am teaching you things and leading you through stretching and strengthening exercises to help you not only get out of your current pain, but prevent future pain. And I had another win this week as one of my clients who had been conditioned to think, I love when people who are working with me, um, start to learn to trust their intuition, to start to learn to know, um, to embrace their body's natural potential to heal, and cultivate a good relationship with their body sense, their intuition, their ability to know the difference between uh, a movement that is good for them and a movement that is not good for them. So maybe I should have mentioned this a little sooner. So one of my, I applaud everyone who wants to strengthen their core to prevent and or get out of back pain. One of my major soapbox pet peeves is the prevalence of damaging exercises in so many core strengthening programs. So there are sadly very common exercises in in most ab programs that involve um, double leg lifts, single leg lifts. Um, Newsflash: there's no abs attached to your legs. The reason your abs feel rock hard when you are lifting and lowering your legs is because they are desperately trying to keep you from ripping the discs out of your lumbar spine um, as you perform those actions. So you're better off choosing exercises that specifically strengthen your internal corset and learning good posture, both sitting and standing and moving and working and playing for you. Also, leg lifts, typically you're you're asking your psoas to lift your leg in the part of the movement chain where it is already shortened. Um, your psoas should be, excuse the jinx, guys. Your psoas should be able to take your psoas should be free so that your glutes can take your leg behind you. And that rarely is even addressed. I'm going to walk back over to the stairs. I'm going to be a distant little spot for most of you, and show you what I mean about that. And then we are going to do a couple of seated stretches. So there's a table right in front of me, so I have to keep my knees wide to not knock it over. Um, and as I come up and go around the table, boom, and go over to the stairs. So I mentioned that the stairs, you want to step and come up to your full body height. Now, if you don't mind playing with it, you could practice here. Make sure you're not arching like a ballet dancer in a grand arabesque, but keep your pelvis stable. And there's like I said, videos on my channel, nice short videos on my channel where you can learn to do, where you can learn about good posture. But you can play with it here. So I can step, and then as I come up, engaging my glute here to my full body height, I can play with taking that leg back. Now, like I said, not a ballet arabesque, just using the glutes to extend the leg behind you. And so it's up and extend. And so you get to practice using your glutes to release your hip flexors on a simple action such as stairs. Like I said, you can do that getting out of a chair too. When you stand up, just stand up fully. And if you want to double check if you've done that, squeeze your glutes at the top with your pelvis and spine in a good position. Okay, we have 60 seconds left for this stretch, you guys. All right, so what I want you to do is anchor your sit bones. That gives us a nice solid base and allows me to be, of course you could do this standing, but it allows me to be close enough to the camera that we can look into each other's eyes. So I'm going to start with my hand behind my head. Now, not pushing my head forward, ideally ears over shoulders. And I'm going to inhale, and then this arm is going to reach down. Exhale. I tilt 1, 2. Inhale, come back up. And exhale. 1, 2. I'm keeping both sit bones down. My eyes are straight in front, and it's like a metronome or a windshield wiper. Inhale and exhale. So if that becomes easy, my head turned a little because I'm looking at the camera. That becomes easy. You can take your arm by your side. Inhale, exhale. I bring my biceps up by my ear. Notice I'm not taking my ear to my biceps. Biceps by the ear, and then exhale and reach. In a few more reps, I'll be able to keep my biceps a little closer to my ear. So this is just a simple lateral move. And an active, isolated stretching. We do at least 5, maybe 8 or 10. And since I just went a little overtime, I'm going to switch to the other side. Hand behind the head. Again, ears over the shoulder. Inhale and exhale. Inhale back up. It's really important to come all the way back up tall between repetitions. And exhale. I'm going to go ahead and add the arm. And the fact that each stretch is just 1.5 to 2 seconds is also a neurological principle upon which active isolated stretching is based. Let's do one more. And go. One of the many things I love about active isolated stretching is it's invigorating. It works with deep fascial planes. It works with the meridians that you might know from the acupuncture, acupressure system. It brings fresh blood and oxygen to the tissues of your body. It feels really good. For back pain, okay, I'm going to squeeze in one more. We're definitely in overtime, and that's okay. I am going to go back to the first side, my hand behind my head. I'm going to keep my sit bones anchored. Remove that little table. You might hear some noise. I'm going to keep my sit bones anchored, and I'm going to rotate. For those of you who can see my legs in the mirror, so if I have about a 90 degree where the legs come together, when I rotate, that gives me about a 45-degree angle for my back and for the front of my body. So now I'm going to engage the abs on this side, inhale, and then exhale, and I'm reaching down the back of my leg. 1, 2. Inhale up tall, and exhale, and reach. Be sure your sit bone is staying down. Of course, you can do multiple sets or longer sets also of each of these. You can rewind and play the end of this. I'm going to add my whole arm. 1, 2. And So if you have a little issue here in the QL region, the quadratus lumborum region, that should start to feel a little bit better already. So I am going to rotate towards the other side and turn. And now this hand is going to go down the inside of my leg. I'm going to start with my hand behind my head. Lengthen, inhale, exhale, and I reach. 1, 2, inhale up and exhale. Going to add my whole arm, but feel free to keep your hand behind your head. Feel free to even just keep your arm down by your side if lifting your arm is not a thing you want to do today. And 1, 2, inhale and exhale. And that gets this region right back here, quadratus lumborum region of your low back. You could go straight down to the center. To get the center, be sure to inhale into your back as you come back up if you do that option. My name is Diane Way of Stretching by the Bay, and it has been my pleasure to be with you today. So definitely check out the free content on my channel. Let me know if you would like to participate in my Bounce Back from Back Pain program or Bulletproof Back program, because that's what I strive to help people achieve. So thanks again for your time and your attention. I wish you the best, and I'll see you soon.